Okay. Yeah, they are running slow. Perfect. Good to go. Thanks and welcome everybody to Rebooting, the cyber arsenal of democracy. Who am I and why am I here? So I will tell you right up front, I don't have all the answers, but I've got a lot of hard-fought lessons. I've got a lot of scar tissue. I've got some wins. I've got some losses, and I'm here to share all that with you. My name is Eric Foster. I am currently CEO of 10x AI. We were recently named by Crunchbase as the #3 M&A target in the entire world, which has made my last 30 days kind of crazy. But before that, I've been responsible for building more than $1 billion in shareholder value across multiple exits. I was part of the team that built RiskIQ that we sold to Microsoft for north of $550 million. I built the company called Sideris that we sold to private equity. I sold specifically to Robert Herjavec and got to run with him for a little bit. So got a lot of interesting stories I'll share with you over dinner, maybe around that. I've had a couple other exits. I built and sold MMA Junkie to USA Today, so not just in the cyber world. But now I'm building 10x AI, and maybe one of the reasons I was asked to come here, I raised from Andreessen Horowitz as part of launching 10x, pretty widely considered maybe the tier 1 of tier 1 VCs. So I'm also an investor, I'm an operator, I'm a defender, as a 3-time CISO before I got into the venture capital game. And I'm really here to talk to you about why you should consider, if you're thinking about it, starting a cybersecurity company. But importantly, this isn't just lessons that I've learned. I'm a big believer in the concept of standing on the shoulders of giants. And what I've done to prepare for this talk, I've pulled together some direct input from literally some of the best venture capitalists on the planet, especially some of the best cybersecurity focus. So in this presentation, you're not just hearing from me, you're also hearing from Andreessen Horowitz, you're hearing from TCV, you're hearing from Insight Partners, you're hearing from DTCP, which is, to give you a little bit of international flavor, that's the venture capital arm of Deutsche Telekom. And then 2 very specific cybersecurity focused venture capitalists. If you don't know these names, you absolutely should. Ballistic Ventures and Crosspoint Capital, pretty widely regarded as the top 2 cybersecurity pure play focused venture capitalists. And yes, there are pure play cybersecurity focused venture capitalists. But let me start with why. I'm a big believer in this concept. I believe now is quite literally the golden era for cybersecurity founders. I would argue there has been no better time in human history to build a business. And there's a couple reasons for that. Now, one, the regulatory climate has changed, and whichever side of the political spectrum you sit on, I think there's very good odds that you're going to see regulatory climate be in the favor of business for at least the next 10 years. And when you're starting a company and you're making a planning horizon, a decade's about as far out as you can plan, to be honest. And so if you're making a plan right now that says, I'm in the best regulatory climate to build a business, okay, that's a really good starting point. But the other piece, artificial intelligence, is changing absolutely everything about building a business. And I can tell you, we're seeing it firsthand. We're seeing, so-called solopreneurs, individuals come and start a business by themselves with less capital than it would have taken, even 2 years ago to start and build a company. We're seeing companies move faster with solving more problems and delivering more value. It is an incredible time to build. It's also not just the artificial intelligence advantage that it gives you as a builder, but it's the platform shift. I'm somebody, I've been doing this a long time. This is 33 years in cyber for me. I've been through most of the platform shifts. I was right on the front lines of the move to the internet, the dot-com bubble, all of that. And I can tell you, every one of these platform shifts creates a whole new wave of companies and creates a whole new wave of enterprise value. And so when you combine all of these things, you combine the regulatory climate, you combine the change that artificial intelligence gives you as a builder, you combine the market opportunity that artificial intelligence is creating, and then I would also say in cyber specifically, there's two other big pieces. One, cyber is still very much an unsolved problem, right? We wouldn't be sitting here if it was. I don't believe artificial intelligence is magically going to solve cybersecurity. Is it going to make it more efficient? Is it going to let us as defenders move faster, deliver more value? Absolutely. Firm believer in that. Is it going to let the bad guys move faster and deliver more value to their stakeholders? Absolutely. But I also have to tell you, again, sadly from the front lines, man, the big guys are missing the boat. When's the last time you saw one of the bigger companies deliver just mind-blowing innovation in the cybersecurity world? I got to tell you, it's been a while for me. Like, most innovation in the history of our company comes from the garage, right? If you look at almost every bit of transformation that has happened, it's been small founders and small teams who've come up with amazing innovation. And most of the big companies, they end up buying that they end up acquiring that innovation and then rolling it out. I'm not saying that Google or Microsoft or CrowdStrike or Palo aren't still innovating. They absolutely are. But I can tell you from being firsthand inside some of those companies, man, do they move slow. And their slow-moving nature is your advantage as a founder. And especially if you're talking about in the age of artificial intelligence, where you need less resources, less team, everything else, now is the time to innovate. And you're also going to hear from me a little bit later of why I actually consider this a moral imperative. When I talk about rebooting the cyber arsenal of democracy, I truly believe that we're at war. Our country is actively at war with a number of nation states, and I think a lot of you know this, right? You're on the front line of defending against that. I know I have been for the most part of my 30-year career here. And I can tell you the need for that innovation to keep us safe, to allow our country to innovate and grow is more important than ever. But let's get into very, very specifics. I'm going to take you through a lot of tactical, practical advice. I'm going to weave in a lot of the specific advice and feedback from some of these top venture capitalists. And then, by the way, because I'm a big fan of sort of setting the story for you here, at the end, you're going to get a link and a QR code, if you trust me enough to scan a QR code. But you're going to get details of everything that's in the presentation. You're going to get a whole list of recommended reading. You're going to get a whole list of founder tools, a whole bunch of other stuff. So, and as I'm aware, these are being recorded and will be online as well, so don't feel like you have to sit and take notes or anything else. I'll also be hanging out after the presentation for about an hour if you guys want to catch up, talk, anything else. But so let's start at the beginning. It's the very best place to start. What we're talking about is this concept of 0 to 1. You're taking nothing and you are creating a thing. You are moving from 0 customers to 1 customer. You are moving from literally an idea to execution. You are moving, hopefully, from 0 revenue to $1 million in revenue. It's kind of the general concept of starting your first business, starting this focus. 4 big points I want you to take away. 1, ideas are cheap, but you still need an idea. So execution is absolutely everything in cybersecurity and venture capital, in operations, in life. I see this time and time again. Everybody thinks when they're starting a company, they're going to start a startup, whatever else, that the idea is this huge secret thing. And oh man, I've got to have an NDA before I talk to anybody. I can't tell anybody about it, anything else. It's absolutely ludicrous. Myself and most real, serious venture capitalists, the moment you ask for an NDA, will throw you out of their office. It's absolutely ludicrous. It creates a huge amount of risk on me for signing an NDA, and I can tell you there is absolutely no value in your idea, with maybe a little tiny asterisk, which is like, okay, if you've invented a new kind of transformer, if you've invented a new kind of extropic chip, if you've got some true, absolute, patentable, groundbreaking thing, then yeah, put it out into the world, patent it, and then start talking to people. But generally speaking, I see this mistake all the time, where you're like, well, man, I've got this idea and I can't really tell anybody about it. You should tell everybody about it. you should go talk to venture capitalists. You should talk to CISOs. You should talk to defenders. You should talk to your friends. You should talk to everybody. This is market research. You want to build that relationship with the people you're thinking about selling to. You want to build the relationship with the people you're thinking about raising from. If you're not starting with a problem that actually matters to the market, you're making a huge mistake. And I see this all the time, and that's point number 3 here. I'll get back to that. But point number 2, always 2 there are, a hustler and a hacker. Generally speaking, you have to have these 2 things to be successful. You've got to have somebody that builds a product, which I call the hacker, and you've got to have somebody that sells the product. That's the hustler. You really, truly have to have both of those things. Now, there are some rare exceptions. There are people like me that are, this is my superpower, is I am very technical, and I'm also really good at speaking, or really good at sales, really good at storytelling. But if you don't have that, if you don't look inside yourself and go, man, I'm really great at telling story, I'm really great at sales, I'm really great at doing that, you are the technical founder, go find a sales founder. And vice versa, if you're the, man, I've got this really great idea, but I don't know how to code or anything else, go find a technical founder. You have to have this combination. And don't get me wrong, you can split that combination among 4 people if you have to. Hey, we've got a product and an idea guy and an engineer, and we've got somebody who can talk to the customers and maybe somebody who can do marketing or whatever that puts together. But you have to start with these 2 roles, and it's one of the biggest mistakes I see, people coming and trying to build a company, and they're like, man, I'm this really great hacker, and I'm really great at producing code, and I've got this amazing idea, but I don't want to talk to anybody. Like, I'm not going to go talk to customers, and I'm not going to go do any of that. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, those people fail almost every time. If you don't build this strong team around you that complements you, that makes you a complete human being, as I like to joke, then you're going to struggle a lot. Number 3, and again, I see this all too often, solve a real problem. Don't just build something because it's cool. Don't just build something because you had this great idea. Start with a business problem and work your way back from it. There are basically 3 things that I look for anytime I'm starting a company, and these are from such hard-fought lessons. 1, you do not want to create a category if you can help it. You want something that the market already understands. You want something that's already in your buyer's budgets. And you want something where there's already a solution to that problem. If you have all 3 of those things, then what you have to do is basically be better, faster, cheaper. Ideally all 3 of those things, but at least one of those 3 things, now you've got a viable company. When we created Risk IQ, we literally were considered to create the external threats or the attack surface management category. We were about a decade too early. It was one of the hardest slogs we ever had because we had to go and tell people this concept of an attack surface that existed outside of your firewall that you needed to care about. And we'd go sit down with CISOs and they'd go, what are you talking about? We'd be like, look, there are all these websites and all these assets that, Shadow IT and a bunch of other stuff that stood up that has your name on it that you're not aware of. Did you know marketing stood up this site and it's got all of these vulnerabilities in it? Well, no, it's not our site. Well, it is your site. It's owned by you. It's owned by marketing. So we had to go convince them that this thing existed and then go, oh yeah, not only does this matter to you, you need to do something about it, and now there is a solution to do something about it, and now we got to help you try to find budget for it because nobody had budget for attack surface management or any of the rest of that in their budgets. So it was very hard. It's hard to create a category. It's hard to go after budget that doesn't exist. It's hard to sell a solution that the market doesn't know about. If you can pick something in that, if you can solve a real problem, and I've seen the other side of it too, man, of just founders who will come out and go, man, I've got this really cool idea. I'm going to take this thing and I'm going to make it twice as fast. Okay, was anybody complaining about how slow it was before? Well, no, but it's twice as fast now. Great. Is that anywhere on the critical path of like responding to an incident or doing security operations or anything else? It's like, well, no, but mine's twice as fast. Like, great. Nobody cares. And nobody will care once you build it that you're just faster if you're not actually solving a real business problem. So start with a problem, work your way backwards from it. And again, you heard me talk about this already, but target the existing budget, the existing known problem, and the existing known fix. If you do all of that, you're going to have a much easier time. I'm a big fan in general, because I know I'm speaking to an army of practitioners here. Ferdinand Porsche, I'm a huge car guy, Ferdinand Porsche had a really great quote, which is when he originally decided to get into the car business, he said, "Looking around and not seeing the car of my dreams, I decided to build it myself." That's my single best advice to you in terms of going from 0 to 1. If you're a practitioner and you've been fighting the good fight for a while, you've probably got something that you're like, man, I always wish I had this tool. Oh man, this is a specific pain point. Oh man, my organization could really use this. That's looking around and not seeing the product of your dreams and deciding to build it. And we'll talk a little bit more about all that. But ultimately, go-to-market is everything in cybersecurity and SaaS in general, everything else. What do I mean by go-to-market? It's an easy term for sales if you're not familiar, but it's bigger than just sales. It's how you literally go out, interact with buyers, and ultimately bring home the deals. So I already talked about being better, faster, cheaper. Like that is the concept of if you can align your business strategy to the customer's existing pain. But that's the key. It's not just, oh, I took something that wasn't painful and made it faster. I found a point of pain. Oh man, when I run a query in my sim and I have to literally get up and go take a coffee break and come back because it takes 15 minutes to run, that's a point of pain. Oh man, I can't log everything I want to. You know, these sim bills are killing me. That's a point of pain. Oh man, I have no idea what's actually going on in my cloud infrastructure. That's a point of pain, right? Find the pain and then find a way to solve it better or faster or cheaper or ideally all three. The big thing about go-to-market, the big thing about sales, the big thing about raising capital, it's all the same thing. It's storytelling. And this is back to you need to be a complete human. You need to have somebody who can tell stories. There are some really great resources that I lay out for you in the appendix here on how to become a better storyteller, on people who can help you be a better storyteller. But this is the most important thing that you will have to do as part of this. And you know, especially people miss this part, which is the motion to raise venture capital is the exact same motion you should be following to get to the market. Like, people will, you know, come at this and go like, I have no idea where to start. I have no idea what to do. How would you go get customers? Think about that. Like, how are you going to go get customers in your startup? And guess what? Going out and finding venture capitalists is going to look almost exactly the same. You've got to find a way to reach out to them. You've got to find a way to get in front of them with a compelling message. You've got to literally cold call, cold email, arrange meetings, whatever it is you're going to do. And there's no one right way to do it, but there is a way. You're going to have to lay that path out, and you're going to have to go do that to get in front of venture capitalists, and then it's going to be the same motion. And what it all matters the most is coming and telling a compelling story. And I'll get in more detail here in a little bit about exactly how to craft that story and what you want to do. Number 3, urgency. A huge believer in this concept of sense of urgency. And in the age of artificial intelligence, it's more important than ever. If you're active on X, if you see a lot of this, there's a lot of focus right now on like fastest companies in the world to 10 million in revenue, 100 million in revenue, all this other stuff. It is absolutely insane. And yes, it has changed a lot of this, but there are still a lot of people building really great businesses that aren't one of the fastest companies in history to hit these revenue numbers. But what every company that is succeeding has in common is an insane focus on sense of urgency. And what do I mean by that? When you wake up every day, you should understand that the enemy is at the gates. Your competitors are at your heels. The opportunities are in front of you. And if everybody in your company doesn't wake up that way and believe that and follow that, that's an opportunity for you as a leader, as starting your company here, to drive that. Drive that urgency across your team, but especially drive it in the product world. One of my favorite points of this, perfect is the enemy of good. I really like the Patton quote instead, which is It's a good plan, violently executed is better than a perfect plan, effectively. I'm butchering it a little bit, but like that concept, moving fast and breaking things, to take the old Facebook analogy, moving fast and shipping things that you're embarrassed by. Like if you wait to perfect your product until it is perfect, if you're not embarrassed by what you ship, you have waited too long to ship. And then number 4, this is one of the other just absolute biggest mistakes I see. People moving away from founder-led sales. Every one of your customers, when you're going from 0 to 1, a huge part of why they're buying from you is they're buying the founder. And guess what? The venture capitalists who are investing in you, they are buying the founder. Are they buying the idea? What did I tell you earlier? Ideas are essentially worthless. There are a million of them out there. They're buying the team, they're buying your ability to execute, they're buying your vision. Those are all more important than the idea. And in fact, you can go hear some top venture capitalists talk on podcasts where they're like, I don't even care about the idea at all. They literally don't. They just want to see, who are you? What do you bring to the table? What does your team look like? How are you going to go execute against this idea? And the idea is almost interchangeable. In fact, it's a concept we talk about in startup world of pivots. Right? This idea of like, oh man, we launched as this, and then we got some traction with the market, and then we decided to change to something else, and then we got some feedback, and we decided to change to something else, right? It's not, oh man, I had to have the perfect idea, and that plan had to survive contact with the enemy, and 10 years later, that business plan I sketched out on a napkin was exactly perfect. That is not how business works. So, founder-led sales. Founder-led sales is the answer. Every single one of your early customers, I'd even argue close to 10 million in revenue, you should be talking to the customers. The customers want to talk to you. Too many companies I've seen will go out and go, oh, we're going to hire a VP of sales right away, because, oh man, I'm not technical, I'm super technical, and I don't have the sales DNA, and I'm not going to have a co-founder that knows that. I'm going to go hire a VP of sales. They're not going to be part of my co-founding team, but they're like, an employee, and we'll bring them in. And every time that's a mistake. It's not to say don't hire a VP of sales. VPs of sales are absolutely necessary, but you should not have one before you've got $1 million in revenue. Now, if you've got $1 million in revenue in 30 days, like a lot of us AI natives, whole different story, and you can start hiring for that right away. But for most companies, the bar for getting $1 million in revenue used to be a year. That was sort of the traditional venture capital backed approach. Like you'd go raise a seed, you'd take about a year, you'd hit about $1 million in revenue in about a year. And so you kind of slow down, let the still crazy sense of urgency and everything else, but slow down on that plan to outsource your go-to-market. So I've got a section here of basically 4 slides that lay out how to pitch, what do the VCs care about, what should you nail, what are the pitfalls, and then I go into red light, green light, basically. So, and again, this comes from not just me, this comes from literally some of the top venture capitalists is where this is sourced, and as you get to the resources in the end, I've got a long form interview that lays out all their questions and answers that you can go read. But these are essentially the top 5 things that venture capitalists are looking for when they're funding a cybersecurity company. They're looking for extreme clarity on purpose. I like to call this high conviction, right? This is what we're here to solve, and I can explain it super easy. You've heard the term elevator pitch, right? Your ability to pitch somebody on what you're doing literally in an elevator. If you can't nail that, you're making a huge mistake. Practice and figure it out until you have that literal 30-second, 1 minute, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is why we do it. Extreme clarity on purpose. You've got to be able to communicate that. You've got to nail what the product does. Again, you should be able to do this in an elevator ride. This is exactly why we're doing it, this is our purpose, and this is exactly what we do. And again, some of the themes run through this the whole way. Work back from business problems. If you're out pitching hey, we've got this crazy idea and we're going to go build this and we're going to do that, and they ask, well, okay, but what's the business problem it solves? You've made a mistake. Align to the business problem and do that first. Sell the vision powerfully. It really, truly is all about not only your ability to execute your team, but your vision. This is the end state that I see. This is the change that I am going to bring and how we're going to accomplish it. And then you've got to think about go-to-market, and you really should think about it in these three phases. 0 to 1, 1 to 10, and 10 to 100. Guess what? 10 to 100 will take care of itself. 0 to 1 is the hardest thing anybody ever does. Creating something from nothing. Going and getting an initial class of customers to pay you $1 million in total. That is the hardest part of starting any business. Less than 1% of businesses get to 10 million in revenue. Less than 1%. We crossed 10 million in revenue in 6 months, and I'm sad to say, Andreessen Horowitz told us we are the top 1% of companies they've ever funded in first-year revenue. Because nobody sells. Nobody does that. It is such a long process. It is the hard part of this. And so many people come in and go, well, I'm focused on building that unicorn. I'm focused on 100 million ARR, everything else. Guess what? 0 to 1 is impossible. If you can get through impossible, 1 to 10 is hard as hell. 10 to 100 is an inevitability. If you build a business that can get to 10 million in revenue, the rest will take care of itself. And I'm not saying it won't be hard when you get there and everything else, but like this is another huge mistake is you come in and go, oh man, we've got this plan and here's the 5-year plan and here's how we're going to get to 100 million in revenue. Man, have a real clear story how you're going to get 0 to 1 and have a pretty good story of how you're going to get to 1 to 10. That's really all that matters and that's all that everybody's looking for. But at the same time, it's not just what is green, what is red. Focus too much on tech. Distribution is everything. Sales is everything. Go-to-market is everything. The tech matters. It absolutely does. But your pitch should not be 80, 90% tech focused. It has to be focused on the entire story. If it's overly complex, if it's overly technical, of that list of top venture capitalists I provided, I mean, most every VC these days has a cybersecurity practice for sure. But most of the people you're talking to in that cybersecurity practice, with all respect and love, are not going to be super technical. Many of them might have been out of the game for 5 or 10 years. You don't want to come in with this hugely technical pitch, even to the very cyber-focused VCs. The people who are allocating money, they don't want that overly technical pitch. You should be able to encapsulate it into a story and take it that way. Number 3, outlandish TAM slides. TAM, total addressable market. This is one of the classic mistakes you see. They laugh at this all the time on Shark Tank if you don't watch that show. But like you come in and go, oh man, identity is a 30 billion ARR market. And all I have to do is get 1% of the identity market and look at the company I will have built. Okay, sure, the TAM is huge. How are you actually going to do that? Just coming out and saying, man, there is a huge market out there. Guess what? There's an 8 billion ARR TAM for managed detection and response. There's a 30 billion TAM for security services. So what? Come with an actual practical plan of where you're going to do and how you're going to build this. Nobody cares, especially at the early stage, what your end TAM is. It's not something to focus on, and this is something that everybody gets totally wrapped up in very early on. The other, overselling without self-awareness. This is something that, especially I see a lot of early founders get into a lot. If you've never done this before, you start to understand, oh man, storytelling is everything, sales is everything, I've got to go do this. I'm going to go promise the world. I'm going to go oversell. Meaning, like, I'm going to write a check that my team or my product or my delivery can't cash. You do not want to do that. You don't want to do it to your investors. You don't want to do it to your customers. Now, this is an art form, I will tell you. Like when you sell to customers, you generally actually want to sell a little bit ahead, we call it. Because if you think about it, most enterprise buying cycles, they're not buying from you what exists today. Usually when I'm coming in and if I'm demoing to you and you're at a relatively large company, we'll be lucky if you've put us under contract 3 months from now. Probably more like 6 months from now, and depending on what you're selling, it might be a year from now. So if I come in and sell to you what the product does today, and I don't at least partially sell what it's going to do by the time you buy, I've done myself a disservice, but I've also done you as a customer a disservice. Because the product you're getting isn't actually going to look like what you just saw today. So you've got to sell ahead to a certain level. You've got to say, look, this is where we're going to be 6 months from now when you guys get implemented. These are the things on our roadmap. This is what we do today, and this is where we're going to go. And then ignoring distribution in favor of product. Again, the best product does not always win in cyber. The cyber graveyard is littered with some really great products that didn't have distribution, that didn't have sales, that didn't have marketing, that didn't have that level of success. So let's turn those things specifically into a list. What are the green lights? If you're a venture capitalist, what are the things you're specifically looking for? You're looking for domain expertise and crystal clear conviction. You guys, by the nature of sitting in this room, are probably have this level of domain expertise, right? If you're coming and solving a problem in cybersecurity, talk about your practitioner background. Talk about, these are the lessons I learned. This is the problem I saw. This is the problem I'm fixing that I saw at my company, and we always wanted to buy this thing, and here's my level of experience, and man, here's my crystal clear conviction about how I'm going to build this, and when I build it, who's going to buy it. Oh, and in fact, I've actually already talked to 3 of my friends that are in these positions at these other companies, and they're all like, yeah, hell yeah, this is exactly what we want. Number 2, mission-driven teams focused on the long haul. One of my favorite mistakes I've ever seen in a VC pitch is somebody coming in and talking entirely in a seed-level conversation about their exit plans. Oh man, here's what we're going to get to and who we're going to sell to and exactly what our exit's going to look like. And it's like, man, you are a long ways from that. Build for the long haul. You should be coming in and talking about, this is the problem we're going to solve. This is the great company we're going to build. And in fact, a lot of venture capitalists are saying that the time horizon has extended to essentially double what it used to be. You're seeing this a lot now, especially between seed and Series A. It used to be 12 to 18 months was like clockwork. You raised a seed, and then 12 to 18 months later, you hit Series A milestones and raised a Series A. The median time to Series A is now 24 months, and we're seeing a lot go to 36. Because there are a lot of companies that started that didn't have the traction to go out and raise their Series A. We're seeing this valley of death, that they call it in military procurement, where it's like, man, I got this original initial funding, and I couldn't quite use that funding to build what I needed to get the motion in the market, to get to success, to my next milestone. So focus on the long haul right from the beginning. And man, with AI as your co-pilot, it's easier than ever to go raise a seed and stretch that money to go like, we've got this long haul plan. Here's how we're going to get to $1 million in revenue to be able to raise our A, and here's what the cost is going to look like and what the burn is going to look like. Now, please.
You mentioned AI, so in your experience building your company, what has been the main use of AI to increase your velocity or whatever term?
Yeah, great question. So repeating for everybody, or for the recording, the question was, in building our company, AI native, what has been some of the biggest returns we've seen from artificial intelligence? Where are we actually seeing it work? The answer for us is literally absolutely everywhere. And this is one of our biggest advantages, we believe, why we're growing so fast, is it's this classic thing you hear called the innovator's dilemma, which is basically, with all respect, if any of you guys are here from any of the legacy MSSPs, I'm sorry, but here's what this looks like. You've built a really great book of business. You might even have 100 million in ARR. And guess what? The moment artificial intelligence came out, you should have ripped up absolutely everything and started over from the beginning. And most companies refuse to do that. They try to figure out where they can bolt AI on. They try to figure out how they can integrate it into their existing process. But they've got a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of process and a whole bunch of tech, and nobody's willing to just completely rebuild. It's one of the biggest advantages we had was being AI native, clean sheet of paper. Literally every part of our business, and I mean every part, is heavily using artificial intelligence. Now that said, as you guys know, there are pitfalls to AI. It is non-deterministic, but here's the dirty little secret about this. Humans are non-deterministic too. It's the self-driving car problem, right? Everybody throws a fit about, oh man, a Tesla just crashed. You know, the AI that's driving the Tesla just crashed. It is an order of magnitude, provably better, faster, safer than a human driver. It's insane. that people are looking at AI and going, oh man, it's not perfect, we can't use it. That's not the bar. The bar is it better than people? Is it better than what you had before? Is it better than the old code you could write? Because guess what? I literally have worked some of the biggest breaches in history. Every single one of them that I've ever been a part of, you know what the single cause of all of them was? Human failure. Every single one of them. Every single major breach you've ever seen was human failure. And if the AIs are better, they will absolutely help. So the short answer to your question, I mean, software development is the single easiest one. Like if you're writing software and you're not using AI, you're very much missing the boat. I don't tend to find that anymore, but I still will find some people who, for whatever reason, aren't using, you know, the right coding tools. But I mean, quite literally, we're using it heavily in every single part of our business. We had a single mandate that said, like, if you are going to run a part of this business for me, you have to have a plan for how you're using AI in all of this, and I would really, truly encourage everybody to do that. I appreciate the question, and hopefully I'll have plenty of time here at the end, too, for that. So the last two, steady quarter-over-quarter momentum, repeatable sales. This isn't as much when you're raising your first round, when you're, you know, if you're getting seed or pre-seed money, but if you have a product, if you're out in the market, you know, if you haven't seen the show Silicon Valley, you absolutely should. It is sadly so true to life for absolutely everything that happens in Silicon Valley. If you haven't, there's one part of it where Erlich Bachman is yelling at them for actually making money. Like, what do you mean you took in money? You're supposed to be pre-revenue, because very literally, the moment you take in your first dollar, now a different clock starts. Now you're going to start asking questions about, well, what's your quarter-over-quarter momentum? How repeatable are your sales? What's your churn rate? What's your growth rate? All this other stuff. If you're pre-revenue, you're just at the idea stage, all of that's off in the future. So if you haven't done that yet, you can hold that off by getting there. Red lights, what kills VC deals? Again, bringing it back. I tell you again, I'll show you what I'm going to tell you and bring it back. Too much product focus, outlandish marketing claims, naive positivity. Oh man, you know, again, this is such a big market. It's going to be so easy. We're going to build this thing. It's going to be the greatest thing ever, and everybody's going to buy it. Like, okay. Non-complementary team. We see this too often too. Oh man, we're both super hackers, and we built this out, and we're the amazing technical co-founders, and we're going to go build a bunch of great product. Yeah, you absolutely are. Where's your sales guy? Where's your marketing guy? Where's your complementary team? Found a company with 4 or 5 people, build that team. And guess what? Even if you're just the 2 co-founders and you're the technical co-founders, you need to go build that team, arguably before you go raise money. And we've seen this a lot. Like, you'll come with a team slide, and where it's like, hey, this guy still works at Salesforce, but he's going to join the moment we actually get this check. And, you know, this guy's working at CrowdStrike, but he's ready to leave, and the moment he comes over, we're going to come do this, right? So roll through that. And again, focus on a quick exit. If you come in and are laying out, man, this is how we're going to get out and how quick we're getting away. So go to market. I tell you that this is the most important. I can't do that without giving you just a little bit of how to do it and do it better. I already talked about founder-led sales. Everybody who's buying wants to hear from you as the founder. They really do. And even if you build a sales team, they need to pull you in. You need to be part of that initial. Authentic interactions. Be yourself. The company that you are selling to is buying in part because of you. They really, truly are. And they should be. And that should be part of it. You know, man, demand creation. This is really where a huge part of the difficulty in go-to-market is right now. It's like, how am I actually going to create demand for my startup? I've got this great idea, but how do I actually accomplish that? And there's a bunch of resources. This could be a whole presentation in and of itself. I'll point you to a few different suggestions here. I use the term AI optimized hiring. I like to even say AI native. At this point, building a company, it's a screening question for us. Like, we want to understand that everybody we're hiring understands how to use AI. They're AI native. Like, if they're not, if you're choosing to work for 10x AI and you aren't singing the value of AI, if you don't know this is exactly how I leverage AI to make myself better, you're probably in the wrong business, at least for us, and I would really kind of encourage you guys the same thing. Some big go-to-market fails that I've seen: avoiding vanity plays that don't resonate with the customer. How often have you guys seen this, where a startup will go out and spend a bunch of money on something because the founder really likes it? I'm a crazy car guy. If I go and take everybody to Black Hat and like go race my favorite cars around, is that like the best use of company funds? I'll love it, but can I actually show that that's going to really drive value with who my buyers are, and this is going to drive returns? And that's just one very small example, but we see this all the time, especially with early stage stuff. It's like, this isn't about vanity. It's not about you. It needs to be about what actually resonates with the customers. I will also say skipping traditional tactics that don't adapt to the market changes. One of the best things that I've seen people have to change now is cold outbound. Like, how many of you guys love getting calls or emails trying to get you to look at a product? Nobody, right? Okay, I need your info after this one. But I mean, quite literally, right? The market has changed. This is one of those great things that like AI SDRs took off, and all of a sudden we started getting hundreds of messages a day that all looked the same. The ones that I get the most are all the podcast invites, if you've seen these, and they're all the exact same format, where it's like, oh man, my CEO was browsing LinkedIn and he found you, and here's his email down below that we want to invite you on our podcast that you've never heard of and has no views, but man, we'd really love to talk to you. I'm like, I get 40 of those in a day from 40 different sources, and it's like, okay. But, the AI SDR has essentially killed the SDR. Like, you have to adapt to the changing times. You can't just go, oh man, we're going to go send 1,000 emails and that's how we're going to go get customers. Okay. Like, oh no, I mean, actually, honestly, I respect it more if you're like, no, I'm going to staff a couple guys who are going to pick up the phone and call a bunch of people. Most people hate it, but it actually works a little bit, works a lot better than email these days. But, if I'm doing changing market tactics, stuff like this, being in person, at events, still selling to people over steak dinners. It's a cliche, but it absolutely works. Like, in person, how you're planned, what these sort of tactics look like. And then one of the other ones to highlight here: steer clear of over-reliance on channels too early. I see this all too often too. Everybody goes, oh man, Opted's going to go sell my stuff, or GuidePoint's going to go sell my stuff, or whatever else. They've got literally 5,000 products that they're selling. It's not figurative, it's literal. You're going to be one of 5,001, and that's all of a sudden going to magically drive all this demand. The channel is important. It is not your focus 0 to 1. It's arguably not even your focus 0 to 10. I can tell you, as having built one of the biggest channel partners, the channel is super selfish, and they just want you to bring success to them. They want you to come and go, oh man, look, we've got this crazy hot product and everybody wants to buy it here. I want to give you 20% just for going and selling it to your customers. And by selling it to your customers, I mean, I'll go sell it to your customers and then I'll bring you in to do the paperwork. Like, that is the sad reality of most of the quote unquote value-added resellers. They've all forgotten the V, and they're just added resellers these days. So if your strategy is very channel-centric, you're going to have a bad time. I talked about this a little bit before: traction before capital. Now, this is great stuff. I would just tell you, like, the more you can do to validate product market fit, and by that, literally before you've raised, even before you've taken in revenue, here's how I understand how this product is actually going to fit in the market. I've done a pilot with my buddy who's the CISO of this bank, and they've already put this in, and they're already looking at it. Or, I built this product to solve my own need at my own company, and they actually let me go build this, and we're providing it back to them. Or I've done this survey of 5 other people, and here's their contact info that you can call and validate that they all see this as the issue. I also say engage with VCs early. This is another big point of success or failure that I see. Everybody's like, again, well, my idea is super secret, and so I've got to get to that stage, and then I've got to build the team, and then I've got to build the product. Man, just go have coffee with somebody and go, this is what I'm thinking about doing. Because your idea is not the key. It really isn't. if you go have that coffee and go socialize that idea, you're going to get more validation. You're going to early understand that very clearly. And then I say generate early ARR from budgets. You go back to the things I was talking about before. You've got to be selling something that's in somebody's budget already, or you've got to have a clear path to get there. Like, how can I get my early ARR out of your budget? If you don't understand that question as you're going to market, you're going to have a hard time. One of the other things I really want to touch on, vet your VCs. Most people don't realize that venture capitalists are much more serious than a marriage. No kidding. It is way easier to get divorced than it is to get somebody off your cap table. It is way easier to get divorced than it is to get somebody out of your boardroom. And I don't know about you guys, but like most people don't meet somebody, like have coffee with them once, have them go, oh man, I really like you, and then get married to them. Vet your VCs. And by that, like figure out, are they a good culture fit for you? Check references. Everybody should check references on everything. This is one thing that kills me. Like, how many of you actually check references on hiring? Like, very few people, a couple hands, but like very few people actually do that, and man, is it so valuable. It's the same thing on venture capitalists, and don't listen to their references. Go find, most of this is public, like go find 10 companies that have taken checks from them and literally call them and go, how is it working with these guys? And guess what? Most of the time, those founders will be really, really fast to help. I'm also a huge believer here of relevant experience. When you're finding a venture capitalist, they should be able to really tell you. Some of them will do these what I call pitchback sessions. And I'm a big fan of making them do that. Like, I've come and pitched to you. I've told you here's what we're going to build and how we're going to partner and everything else. Now you turn and tell me, how are you going to help me? And have that be an actual story that you can get to. I've got a little bit in here on hot opportunities. I'm going to, speed through this, but to me, man, almost every part of security is kind of hot right now. Identity is huge. Cloud is huge, obviously. Sadly, if you bundle those two things, identity and then cloud/network, most people don't realize that's 70% of security budgets, just in those two areas. Right? This is almost everything. I still believe threat detection needs a lot of work. Like, this is an area that we're all having trouble actually separating the wheat from the chaff. Obviously, throw AI on everything, but actually mean it. AI-driven anything is very, very hot. I believe there's a lot of opportunity to streamline incident response, but also, building future resilience. And I lay this out, like, I started at the beginning. I believe that you literally have a moral imperative to try to start a company right now. Like, if you're thinking about it, if you're on the fence, there is no better time in human history. We need you. The country needs you. The businesses need you. The internet, the ecosystem needs you. Parting shots. I'm going to give you a couple here. There's a whole bunch of stuff you should read, but guess what? It's all on the next slide. I've got a link tree and I've got a QR code for you. Other parting shot, more money isn't always the answer. Another great Silicon Valley reference. What do you mean I could have raised less money? Every time you raise money, you set expectations. If you go raise at $1 billion valuation right now, guess what? You've got to deliver and grow your company to be worth $1 billion before you can raise again. Yeah.
I don't really know about startups, but when you raise money each time, are you giving away equity in your
Absolutely.
company?
And that is the exact point. Every time you raise money, and this is one of the funny things to me, like everybody just immediately celebrates. Oh man, we raised and we raised at this. Raising should be a little bit somber. I just sold part of my company. I just gave away part of my equity. I just diluted everybody who believed in me before. If I've taken money and I go raise again, everybody who gave me money before is now, their portion of the company's actually gone down. Now the whole idea is the valuation has gone up, and so you own a smaller piece of a much bigger pie, right? But it should be a somber moment. It really, really should.
How does that factor into you as decision-making power in a private company?
That's a really good point. And let me finish this off, and I'll jump right back to it. No, I love the questions. I want to roll through them. So, be in it for the long haul. Culture wins every time. I'm a huge proponent of culture. So, I'll show you this a couple times. It's on here too. But I am Performify, perform plus IFY, like modify. So Linktree/Performify or that QR code. And yes, I'm not rickrolling you, I'm not trolling you, this will actually take you to this. If you jump to it, I think this will show, it'll look like this. Oh, it's not gonna show. Well, there's sections. There's a section of books, there's a section of online resources, there's a section of my stuff. I think it'll go if I get through this later. But long story short, jump to that link tree and you should see a lot of additional resources for you on, a bunch of technical, tactical, other things. Other things you'll see on this. This isn't my book, but I am featured heavily in it. RaisingMoneyBook.com, it's also available from there. Literally, a couple of my friends turned and wrote a book on raising capital right now, and I think it's worth it. And then, happy to jump into Q&A here. By the way, just selfishly speaking, we're hiring like crazy. And where I recommend, and I do this both self-servingly and hopefully interestingly to you guys, I'm a huge believer in culture. Culture wins everything. Check out our culture deck, culture.10x.ai. And I'm going to jump back to the link tree, and then I'll jump into questions. So you had said, as you're making decisions about taking other people into your company, what was the second part of that?
When you for a private company, how does raising money factor into decision making power?
Great.
How
How does
equity given away?
Yeah, when you raise money, how does that equity given away factor into decision making power? So this is actually a really, really important point. So. Generally speaking, the way most companies are organized, you have voting shares. And if you haven't done something special with it, a lot of decisions require a majority vote, like 51% of the company. And you'll end up in circumstances where you give away parts of the company and you're literally giving away votes in your company. And this is where founders will get replaced or will get voted out or other things like that. So exactly. And the other thing, man, I got to tell you, like you see this all the time too. I sold 20% of my company to these guys, and they only own 20%, and that doesn't technically give them a board seat or doesn't technically give them the right to vote on what I did. But guess what? If you would like to ever raise money again, if you would like to ever get any more money, you're going to generally have to listen to the people that gave you money. So it very much factors into it, even if the votes might be in your favor. I think I've got a few more questions, please.
What is your opinion of what investors think of as an engineering team that is outsourced versus
great
one that
Great question. Yeah, what do investors think about outsourced engineering teams? There are some that are not a fan, but generally speaking, it's not that big of an issue. It really isn't. It's more about your vision and your total ability to execute, and what I'd tell you is just have a story around it. Yeah, look, we've got an Indian development team, or we've got a nearshore development team, or whatever that story is. But what I would almost always recommend, it's the same thing with my dev team is all AI. You still need somebody to kind of babysit that. You still need somebody to drive governance and all of that. And so what I usually see and what most people usually respond the best to is yeah, we've got a CTO, but they're not going to hire a bunch of engineers. They're going to partner with this offshore development team or whatever else. Please.
You mentioned when you're picking VCs that it should align with the culture of what you want the company to be. When you're pre-seed or very early on, are you saying it should align more with the culture of you and maybe your co-founder, or more with where you see the company going in the vision?
Yeah, really good question. So the question was, when you're pre-seed, you're early, we talk about culture alignment with VC. Should that be culture alignment with you guys as the founders, or where you see the company going? So I'm a big fan. If you pull up my culture deck, I write those before I start companies. This is what I believe in. This is my conviction, and this is the culture that I want to have. Now, Ben Horowitz, as you get into my link tree here, Ben Horowitz has two really great books. He's the the Horowitz half of Andreessen Horowitz. Two really great books. The Hard Thing About Hard Things, which is mandatory reasoning if you want to start a book, and the other is What You Do Is Who You Are, and it's all about culture. And his book takes you through a lot of this. Long story short, define your culture up front, and those should be the same answer. The culture of me and my founders is the culture that the company's going to get, except culture is a living thing, and so it's going to change over time. Please, sir.
Question: what's your perspective on fully remote teams versus co-located, same room?
Yeah.
For dev teams in particular, for small startups?
Absolutely. My perspective on remote teams. I'm super controversial on this. I hate remote work. I believe it's a necessary evil. Our company, 10X, like we're hiring like crazy. You go to our website, you'll see 3 things. All of our positions are either in Sarasota, Florida, they're in Kansas City, Missouri, or they're in San Jose, California. And then we put an exception on that, and we say if you are a true 10Xer of 10Xer, if you are the 1%, we will make an exception and hire you remote. It's more like 10% to give away a little secret, but I'm a big believer in the value of in-person work. Now that said, man, anybody can be successful. I've seen remote teams work. I've seen all that, but man, I'm a huge believer in culture. I'm a huge believer in the whole concept of return to office. I got one more question, and then I'll be here for another hour. Happy to hang out, take questions, anything else.
Curious to hear your story of like getting your first customer. How did that go? What did you do?
Yeah, the story on getting your first customer. And again, if you've started with high conviction and working backwards from a business problem, ideally, you have that first customer in mind before you start your company. I know here's a problem space, and I know somebody this is going to resonate with. And in fact, one of the most successful things I see early on are companies that come to the table with, we've already had this idea, we've gone and had this conversation with 5 potential buyers, and I've got a purchase order here. Like, or I've got a letter of intent. Like, these guys will buy from me once I build this together. So there's a lot about that in some of the resources here, but it is absolutely the most important thing. Thank you guys so much. I'm at time.